What's up, guys? We're back, and we're reading a subreddit. Honestly, I'm surprised we haven't read up until now. We're reading Malicious Compliance. For the first story, we've got a customer who demands the employee discount. Turns out, it'll cost more. Next, we've got a boss who makes her employees put their phones away at work, which just ends up making her own job harder. Then we have a manager who makes the employees clean up a mess they didn't even make. Turns out that was the worst decision of her career. And finally, we see exactly what happens when the union gets involved. And of course, we've got our bonus, which is another requested subreddit, so check that out as well. Alright, see you guys in a bit. You want the employee discount? Okay. I work at insert pizza place here that opened up last year in November, and just yesterday, I had this happen to me. EW is entitled which, M is manager, and me, well, that's obvious. Now, to the story. All this week, we have a deal going on online where you get half off all pizzas you order. And we weren't very busy tonight, so I was about to get off 3 hours early, but decided to serve one last customer who came in after I collected my tips, but before I actually clocked out. A little side note, my manager was behind me at the cutting table cutting up the last 4 pizzas for this order. Me. Hello, are you here to pick up? EW. Yes, I am. I ordered online. Me. Okay, what was the name on the order? EW. Karen. Not her name, but changed to keep her from knowing if she reads this subreddit. Me. Okay, that'll be total price of order. Would you be paying with cash or card? EW. What? Why is it so much? I thought everything was half off. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am. It's only pizzas that are half off. We go back and forth, some with her trying to get the price lower, but eventually she demands. EW. Then get me the employee discount. I smile, as I know this would just make the order cost more. Me. Okay, but I'll have to take off the other discounts to put it on. EW. Smiles as though she just won a prize. Go ahead and take them off. I take the discount for her ordering online off and give her my own smile and say, me, that'll be even more expensive price. Would you be paying with cash or card? EW. What? Why is it more expensive? Get me your manager. M finishes the last pizza and comes around the heating rack. M. I'm the manager, and I've listened to everything that's been said. Tells you how loud this woman was because the oven is running all the time, and it's pretty loud when you're right next to it. Suffice to say, the woman ended up paying the higher price. God, I can relate to this guy so much. It is the most annoying thing as a retail employee for the customer to ask for the employee discount. Just, if you ever thought of doing this, anyone listening, don't do it. You'll annoy them. No phones at work? Okay, I won't communicate. Background. The nature of my job requires me to be in different parts of the facility at different times. There's a schedule in our shared Google Drive, so you can easily find where I'm scheduled to be. There's also phones in each of those places. We use our cell phones for email and text communications throughout the day. My boss is constantly having her secretary text us to relay info. Our company policy literally encourages the use of cell phones for work-related reasons. They don't provide devices to check emails, so really, it's the most efficient way to communicate, rather than leaving your post to go to an office with a computer. My boss is a complete nutcase. She gets in these moods where everything pisses her off. 2 weeks ago, she was in one of her moods. She had her secretary email a schedule change to all of us employees. Then, she walked in the room my coworkers and I were in. My coworker was on her phone reading said email. The boss walked out with an annoyed look on her face. Like 5 minutes later, we get a passive-aggressive email from her saying, there have been complaints that several of you are using your phones throughout the day. Per company policy, you are not to be on your phones. Thanks. I was totally confused, wondering if the policy had changed. So I looked up the policy. No change. still said they encouraged the use of phones for work purposes. I decided I could be just as ridiculous. She's the primary person who contacts us throughout the day anyway, so I began leaving my phone in my car. I checked my email at 6:55 a.m. before I entered the building. She doesn't come in until 7:30, so I don't get her emails until the end of the day. It's going on 2 weeks now. She can't be bothered to pull up the schedule file to get the room number when she needs to contact me, so she asks someone else to do whatever nonsense she needs done. It is proven to be far more stressful for her than for me. I secretly laugh when someone says, "Boss sent me an email about that," and I can reply, "Oh, I didn't see that because I don't have my phone." I'm anxiously awaiting the day Big Boss asks me about it. I really do hope we get a follow-up on this story when Big Boss finally does come around. I need to fix the mess of others? Enjoy your unemployment. A few years back, I was working for a data cabling DC company and did a lot of work for a big business, BB, and their very large factory. DC had 3 groups of technicians, and thus 3 managers. Mine was very nice, but one group was managed by the witch, W, who liked to hang around and make her presence known, even when not needed. A few more important details, then on to the malicious compliance. Since BB had so many contractors and competing contracts, we had to always fill out 2 timesheets. One for BB describing the work we did in their terms so DC could get paid, and one was for DC for items not in the contracts with BB. Drive time, cleanup, delays, etc. One particular day, 2 groups of technicians were called to an area of the factory where we had just completed some work. W started screaming about how terrible we were and that this kind of sloppy work was not acceptable, even something about fixing it on our own time. Lucky for us, our main competitor used an unusual colored zip tie, and I was able to bring this to the attention of my manager while W was losing her mind. While W was catching her breath, my manager pointed this fact out to her, and I was able to show W the work we did, although in the same general area, not the same path, and I also cheerfully added how nice and clean our work looked. This only seemed to enrage W, as if it was the first time she was wrong in her entire life, and could not handle that being on record. She started to leave and turned around, red-faced and sweaty, and screamed, "I don't care if it's not our work. We need to clean up their work so we don't get called out by BB." As the senior manager of the group, she made it very clear that she had the final say. At last, the MC. With so much work going on all over the factory, there was plenty of opportunity to clean up cables, and my group started adding 30 to 40 minutes per job on our DC timesheet for this compliance, since there was no code for us to get paid by BB for this work. This large amount of work also delayed our billing department from seeing this for about 6 weeks. Our group was called in to explain our timesheets, and fortunately, all the managers were there to hear our story. As we started to explain the hundreds of man-hours and supplies we were wasting, my manager corroborated our instructions from W and had documentation to show that W approved this time and material. Billing went to corporate with tens of thousands of lost dollars and put it all on W, who was promptly fired. I mean, she absolutely had nothing to lose but her inflated ego. And from the way he's saying the story, it just made it sound like he just wanted her to not be mad. He wasn't trying to rub it in her nose or anything. If she would have just said, "Oh, my bad," she would have still had her job. Be careful what you wish for. Many years ago, when I was just out of my teens, I landed a job in a plastic molding factory. They made all the acrylic fittings for the automotive industry. Headlight protectors, bonnet guards, and weather shields for the most part. The factory was owned by 3 brothers who had started out in their garage and built it up to a multi-million-dollar business. I really liked these guys. They were very down-to-earth, hard workers with no holier-than-thou type attitude. They also made sure to take care of their staff. Everyone wore the same uniform, from the office staff to the assembly line workers, and everyone was well paid and cared for. They knew everyone by first name, and you were expected to use their no sirs allowed. They liked to come around each week to see how everything was running, and always listen to the staff. You would think this was idyllic, right? Enter the unions. Now, I have nothing against unions, for the most part. They serve to keep the bad employers in check. But when the employers are as good as the three brothers, there's no need for the unions to get involved. But they did. Some dirtbag, I never found out who, decided they needed to be paid more, and more holidays, or whatever. Next thing we knew, we had people protesting and stopping the lines, petitions, etc., etc. It turned a good job into a daily pain in the arse. It's a real pity that no one bothered to check up on their entitlements under law first. So the brothers had called a meeting of all the workers and agreed that as of this pay cycle, that everyone was to be awarded the highest level pay rate and holiday allowance required by law as per the union demands. Cue big cheers from the union jerks. Until the pay rate was announced, we would be getting a pay cut of roughly 10% across the board, as well as a week less holiday time. You could have heard a pin drop. Yes, that is correct. We had been previously paid well above the legally required rate. The problem is that no one had actually bothered to find out what the rate was. Well, the next 4 weeks were interesting, to say the least. The whole place was a simmering pot of anger and resentment. The workers, who had been pushing the union, were given a rough time, to say the least. I was made abundantly clear that they were not welcomed by their coworkers, and several of them quietly resigned. We had all received our much smaller pay and holiday accrual in silence. So, after letting us stew for the 4 weeks, we again called for an all-staff meeting. The brothers announced that they would like to restore pay and holidays to the previous levels if that was okay with us. They were not being snide about it. They really were genuinely honest. They also explained that while they could not legally demand unions stay out of the place, we should perhaps think about it in the future before anything happens, and just talk to them about it instead. I will always remember those 3 men. Good men to the last. I mean, I understand no matter what we do in life, we always want to be paid more. But come on, man. If you want to be paid more, go to the person paying you first and foremost, and at least ask them. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for the stories today. And now we're going to head right into the bonus. And for today's bonus, we're going to do another requested subreddit from this gentleman right here. We're going to be reading r/wholesome memes. Now let's chisel away at those stone hearts and get right into it. A thread of women that could make me cheat on my girl. And that concludes this thread. Reddit has made me so cynical. All I could think of when I read this was, wow, what a nice guy just trying to pick up the other girls. An autistic child from New Jersey called the police last night because he missed his teddy bear game. The policeman says, "When I received the call, the child told me that he had missed his game, and his parents told him, in case of emergencies, he had to call 911. The policeman arrived at the house and informed the parents that he was on a mission to find a teddy bear." After all these pro-revenge and entitled parent stories, I think we all needed this cop in our life. We needed to read this. Mom finds family pit bull dragging 7-month-old baby by her diapers after house goes up in flames. Aw, what a good boy. That makes me want to cuddle up with my puppers. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that little palate cleanser, because tomorrow we're going right back to pro-revenge, entitled parents, something along those lines. But it won't be this sweet, I'll tell you that for a fact. So I will see you in the next one, guys. Peace out.